My neighbor called me and she's like, hey, ICE is here. It hit me like, oh my God, she's gonna be deported. Like how do I protect my mom?
Welcome to Cornhole Champions, a weekly podcast powered by Iowa Starting Line, where we throw bags at the state's biggest stories. I'm Zachary Oren Smith. It's Wednesday. And I'm joined today by Iowa Starting Line's Amie Rivers and Nikoel Hytrek. It's week 3 at the Iowa legislature. Hear about an effort to waive those pesky little blood level tests we make kids get before they go to school. Cut through the bullshit in our autopsy of the Baby Olivia video. And hear about how Latinos, documented and otherwise, are being targeted right here in Iowa. That's coming up on Cornhole Champions. So, Amie and Nikoel.
Zachary.
Are turtles appropriate pets ever?
I had 2 turtles. I had red-eared sliders. They're aquatic turtles. And so you put them in a tank with like a little bit of water so they can swim around, and then give them something to like sun on and a little heat lamp.
Nikoel, did you have turtles?
No. I think my brother wanted them. My parents were like, nah, we don't know how to do that.
Your parents made the responsible choice and said, I'm not going to have an open cesspool in my child's bedroom. Is that what your parents said, Nikoel?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
In so many words. But Amie, your parents were like, no. I actually would like for there to be a little pee-pee poo-poo pond in the in my.
They made me keep it in my own room, so like I knew when it needed to be cleaned out, which was
that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Just standing water.
Yeah,
just standing pee-pee poo-poo water in your.
Yeah, you gotta clean it out. Teaches you responsibility, pet ownership, that sort of thing. My first turtle ran away, though. I wanted to...
Ran?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, so I would used to let them outside. And, like, they could run around. Because, like, red-eared sliders are kind of fast. They can scurry.
You keep using this verb, run. And I just... Like, I'm inside the bit with you. And, like, I get it. Like, hilarious. Haha, funny, haha. I'm having a great time. What do you fucking mean, run?
His name was Speedy, too.
I'm in hell.
Yeah, no, so I would leave him, I let him go outside and they could run around, and then I'd, bring him back in and put him back in the tank and that sort of thing. So they get a little bit of freedom. But one time I forgot about Speedy and then went inside to play Game Boy for a while and then like freaked out and went back out and I couldn't find him. And I think that he just migrated back out to the wild because they're native to Iowa.
You're telling me that you ran back inside to go catch a Gengar on Pokemon Red, and Speedy and your actual Pokemon, your actual Squirtle outside was nowhere to be found. Is that what I'm to understand?
I mean, basically, sure.
I think it canonically had to have been a Blastoise. You had to go catch. Although you can't catch a Blastoise in those games, you got to evolve it. Anyway,
man.
First story. Iowa Republicans are returning to the uncanny valley with a 3-minute video depicting a digitally animated character mischaracterizing the stages of fetal development. Meet Baby Olivia.
This is Olivia. Though she has yet to greet the outside world, she has already completed an amazing journey.
That was Meet Baby Olivia, a video that Iowa Republicans want to require students to watch. The video is chock-a-block full of inaccuracies and is itself created by a group looking to dissuade viewers from choosing an option that is already heavily stigmatized in the United States. It's inaccurate propaganda being presented as scientific fact, and Iowa Republicans want to indoctrinate your kids with it. Nikoel Hytrek is Starting Line's reproductive rights reporter. Nikoel, we've seen this video come up before in the session, right?
Yeah, last year was a big push in both chambers to have that video shown to high schoolers in the human development classes. Well, actually, not just high schoolers. The original bill starts at first grade through 12. So it's, 7 to 17.
And so this is this video supposed to go in just alongside other curriculum, or is this like, how would that fit into the curriculum?
Yeah, so the requirement is that they show a video or animation showing the stages of fetal development, and it says like the Baby Olivia video. So it's not necessarily specifically that, but it does require a I think 3-minute video. It's like the way it's required is like describes this one. So it's like not specifically, but this one is kind of the only video that meets these requirements. And it's not just from like dissuading people from choosing an option that's already heavily stigmatized. It's to push the idea of fetal personhood.
And we've compiled a list highlighting inaccuracies in the video to give you, the listener, a sense of what it's getting wrong. To kick us off, here's this.
This is the moment that life begins. A new human being has come into existence. At fertilization, her gender, ethnicity, hair color, eye color, and countless traits are already determined.
And so that's a clip where this video, the Meet Baby Olivia video, describes exactly where life begins, the moment where life begins, which is super interesting.
It's fertilization.
It's fertilization. They solved it, everyone. Baby Olivia figured it out for us. Now it disagrees with, sacred texts like the Talmud, which would place life beginning at birth. It flies in the face of conversations around viability, right, that we've been having in the United States. But I'm so happy to report here that Baby Olivia solved it. It begins at fertilization. Mazel, everyone.
I want to point out too that because this is a common tactic where they will characterize fetuses and stuff as a her and a she, and obviously they've named it.
Right.
So it's kicking those propaganda gears.
Right.
She begins to implant in the uterus about 1 week after fertilization.
I think it's really important that we talk about kind of one of the difficulties that this video presents to us, which is the timeline that it offers. The video marks the embryo's growth based on conception, right? In reference to conception, not after the last known period, right? Which seems unimportant until you remember the scale being used to limit when abortions are and are not allowed in states like Iowa. We use since the last known period, right? And so when we're talking with so it's this Calvin ball approach to when the video refers to 4 weeks versus 18 weeks, right? You have to kind of add 2 weeks in order to kind of understand developmentally, right, the scale that we tend to use. Kind of what it is that Baby Olivia and the mysterious narrator is talking about.
And that actually is the main problem that OBGYNs who came and testified against the bill last year had. What they were saying, this is medically inaccurate. It's not using the same scale that actual doctors use to determine gestational age and stuff like that. So that was one of the big sticking points last year.
It clouds the space. The idea of imposing this kind of weird from fertilization period is just further abstracts what is already kind of a scale that's lost on some folks.
Her cells organize into what we call an embryo. At 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's heartbeat can be detected.
Dig that heartbeat and sad violin.
The violins.
So at 3 weeks and 1 day, just 22 days after fertilization, Olivia's, quote, heartbeat can be detected. It is, Nicole, jump in here. It's true that no heartbeat.
No.
There's no heartbeat if there's no heart.
Yeah, no, there's no physical heart present. What is usually heard is it's electrical pulses. There's some studies showing that what you hear isn't even that. It's the ultrasound machine that you hear.
And the notion that the cardiovascular system hasn't developed.
That too.
We're in some ways, right, we're slipping into their game, which is to say that there is a go no go point for when there's a life, when there's not a life, when it's when is it developmental fetus, when is it a baby, right? But here they're not even referring to they're referring to a heartbeat where there is no heart,
right?
Which I find fascinating.
And it's 3 weeks too, which is even stricter than Iowa's ban,
right,
which is 6 weeks, or when a fetal heartbeat is detected. So it's another sign of this video's timing being off.
And one of the challenges that I have, we are famously working in a audio medium. The reality is, while you can't see the video, I think that's probably what the animation, right, that has been used for this video, I think is deeply compelling. It is this kind of image of this perfectly fragile baby that is suspended in this kind of red fluid environment, right? It's very built to kind of elicit. It's kind of using the Pixar Big Eye, Big Eye elicit big emotion approach.
Yeah, totally. Like, it's very animated, and that's why they're calling for like animated and computer generated images, because you can't see any of this stuff in reality.
She can bring her hands together at 7.5 weeks, and separate fingers and toes emerge. She can also begin to hiccup.
This was another thing that OBGYNs called out last year, saying that like this is actually not stuff that we can observe.
So when I'm trying to write a scene that's really compelling, some of the like advice that I was given early on is like, be very specific. Refer to small things, right? If you're trying to describe a really a beautiful domestic moment between two people, go with the texture of the apron he's wearing while cooking breakfast. Go with the freckle on the back of her knee. Go, this is how you write these like really like poignant moments. And so they can bring their hands together as if to pray. They have separate fingers. What could be more specific than separate fingers? And the ability to hiccup feels like such a wild jump in specific. Just like my dog growing up would sometimes get the hiccups, right? This is what makes you truly a life worth living is, you got the hiccups.
Yeah,
I love this detail. I really do.
It's all about that personalization. Because the whole point, according to the group that made this video live action, like the person who runs the group is quoted saying that the goal here is to make young people supportive of abortion bans.
Totally.
And that
Picture Baby Olivia.
At 11 weeks, she is playing in the womb, moving her body and exploring her environment.
Baby Olivia is out here breakdancing off the side of the womb. At 11 weeks, she's playing. What's super interesting to me is like you compare that to the reality that voluntary movement like kicking doesn't commence until like a week after, when these folks are even using their scale, like well after when they're describing. Again, we're just playing Calvin ball, but it's to suggest, right? You've heard about the 12-week abortion bans, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the message, right? So like that when you kid who's trying to take in this news cycle, and you hear about someone wanting to have a 12-week abortion ban, right? You're gonna say, oh, that's when Baby Olivia's tap dancing inside mama's womb, right?
Exactly.
Like,
that's like a whole person.
Totally.
And it's also the thing too with this is like viability. Like, this baby couldn't be delivered at this stage. Like, at the earliest, I think I heard somebody say was like 21 weeks, and that was in an environment that was like the highest standard of care. So that's not even like a regular type of hospital.
So that's half the time that they're suggesting, right? Is at 11 weeks.
Beginning at 18 weeks, ultrasounds show speaking movements in her voice box.
This is my favorite one because vocal cords don't develop until like 28 weeks, but they know that they can't refer to it as like speaking. They can't refer to it as vocalizations because like there just is no evidence. So they're referring to speaking movements, which
like mouth opening. And it's like, I don't think you can observe that.
The kind of grift, right, that we're getting into, right, where we're just calling anything, right? We don't have vocal cords, but we're going to refer to, quote, speaking movements in her voice box, right? The deeply scientific voice box, elusive and scientific. So that's the Baby Olivia video. That's what Iowa legislators would like to require our students to view as part of their education in the state of Iowa. Nikoel, can you talk a little bit about kind of where we go from here? Right, we've been reviewing the material here. What's next for this legislation?
So it passed. So the current version passed the House last week, but interestingly, in that one, they don't even mention Meet Baby Olivia at all in that one. And it's the Senate version, I think, that has Meet Baby Olivia mentioned. So they're still trying to go with this computer-generated animation of fetal development. And I think what a lot of like opposition people are trying to push is like, let's make this medically accurate. Let's make this like actual from a reputable source, like American College of Gynecologists and Obstetricians.
And we'll be following, Nikoel will be following that bill as it moves forward. You can follow her work at iowastartingline.com. We're going to move now to the second story. This week, a grab bag of an education bill passed out of subcommittee. It wants to increase tax credits for things like textbooks and tuition. It wants to exempt homeschoolers from blood lead level tests. It also wants to do away with the dreaded gender neutrality that trans girls are enforcing on our poor foreign language instruction. There's a lot to unpack here, but let's start with the tax credit, probably the driest part here. You start with your vegetables. Right now, Iowans get a tax credit for up to $500 for the first $2,000 they spend on tuition or textbooks, right? So it's a $500 credit that currently exists that you can currently take advantage of. The bill would jack that up to $1,000, so 50% of that $2,000 spent. I thought it was interesting. That they hadn't done a fiscal note on this piece of legislation, given that we're saying we're going to double the tax credit, right, which is to take in, the state would then basically get half as much money as they're currently collecting this way through that tax credit system. What y'all make of this from the party of fiscal conservatism?
Right. Another just free grab bag of taxpayer money for even less regulated schools. I mean, you can argue that public schools aren't really regulated, but homeschooling is absolutely not regulated. I mean, and they lifted a cap on the number of unrelated children allowed to be enrolled in an instructor's homeschooling. So now you're just like allowing like basically school age daycare with no oversight completely, and $1,000 tax free on every single student that you enroll. So
Yeah.
a lot of grifting coming up on the Iowa taxpayer dime is what I'm reading.
And I mean, they don't pay attention to fiscal notes, so
That's such a devastating point to make, Nikoel. But you're absolutely right. Right? If it could say anything, and it wouldn't matter if they want to push this through, they're gonna.
yeah.
At least we would know. We would then know how much money we're expecting.
Yeah,
And then they
exactly.
would blow past it, of course. Like
Yeah,
they did
because
with
that
the
happened with
vouchers.
vouchers. That happened with like the Medicaid expansion for postpartum, where there's just like, hey, this will kick X number of people off, and they're like, we're gonna do it anyway.
But while fiscal notes may disappear with time, lead poisoning doesn't. This bill, so currently Iowa anti-vaxxers can already opt out of receiving a vaccine. We do require children entering kindergarten to have their blood lead levels checked. Lead exposure, particularly at high levels, can cause numerous developmental and learning issues, particularly for young children, developing children. And so this has been kind of a bedrock expectation that we're just going to check. We've got an aging housing stock in the state of Iowa. We want to make sure your kids aren't eating lead paint, right? It happens. I live in an old house. What do you guys make of this provision?
I want to know who asked for it. Like,
Right.
why?
Who is like, you know what?
Uh-huh.
We're okay with lead. Like maybe these employers that are having a hard time finding people to work in these terrible jobs would hope that people would have lots of blood lead poisoning to not care.
Who looked at this like test or whatever and was like, nah, I have to oppose that.
During the one of the proponents of the bill during the subcommittee, which is the one chance
Yes.
that the public has a chance to weigh in on a bill, said that, hey guys, don't get into the weeds. Wait, I worry you're getting a little bit into the weeds with this thing about the lead level check, right? Don't get your eye off the ball.
Oh,
And I
no.
remember I was thinking like, well, no, that's not even like a really invasive, particularly invasive check, right? We just want to make sure your kid ain't got high lead levels. It's estimated that John Hopkins estimates that nearly 500,000 children under the age of 5 in the U.S. have high levels of lead in their blood. That's according to the Advisory Committee on Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention. But they point out that there is no safe level of blood level. There is no safe blood lead level in children. Even low blood lead levels, that's so hard to pronounce, have been shown to lower a child's IQ, ability to pay attention, and academic performance. Lead-related physical and thinking changes can't be corrected.
Wild.
And then last, and this I hope y'all have something to say on this one, because I do. The banana pants portion, it's the mandate that world language instruction shall, quote, not alter the world language to incorporate gender-neutral language if the world language being offered and taught utilizes a grammatical gender system, right? Our anti-woke crusaders have said, we are out here, you have these woke language professors and teachers that are adding gender-neutral language where there aren't, and this is becoming a huge issue for the integrity of the traditional language construction. That's the kind of what proponents are saying.
We must get rid of they, them, and all of its approximations.
Totally. Basic pronouns that we use in English that are gender neutral, like the third person plural, they, them.
Crazy.
Take those out. Get rid of them. I think it's great. No more collective nouns. Let's let's get rid of them all for sure. Amie, what'd you make of this?
Another bill attacking for no reason, because it's not a problem, non-binary and trans Iowans, and pushing them and their allies out of the state unnecessarily to score political points.
Yeah, the problem that I see is that traditional language structures many of them already have gender-neutral language incorporated. Many Latinate languages draw on Latin's use of gendered pronouns. That same language has, in addition to masculine and feminine declensions, also has neuter forms for a lot of its words, where it's like bellum, right, which is a isn't masculine, feminine, it's neuter, right, which is the kind of like lingual name for this like not this, not that category. But fuck that. That's an ancient language. What contemporary languages use it? I was looking around the internet. So Spanish, of course, has as, right, which is can include masculine or feminine identifying characters within its pronoun. Tagalog and Cantonese both have gender neutral declensions within their language set. It's not just Latinate languages. Other world languages also draw on that flexibility.
Do you think this is something that Republicans even know about or care about?
No, I don't. It's a messaging bill, right? Which is just to say it's just to say fuck them trans kids.
Fuck the idea of inclusivity. We make no changes or adjustments.
I like clutching my pearls too. I get it. I love the feeling. I really do.
Like, we can talk about clutching our pearls for language reasons, but Republicans don't want to tackle the real problems, like whether the Oxford comma should be mandated or not.
Amen.
Okay? You want to talk about a real grammatical issue.
Get him, Amie. Get him. Kill him. Yeah, man. I'm tired of all these comma splices that I find in y'all's copy. I'm looking at you, Amie Rivers. Third story. We are in week 2 of the Trump regime, and already Latinos, citizens, and otherwise are being targeted. Not just by ICE, but here in Muscatine at Guadalajara Mexican restaurant. The restaurant was defaced over the weekend with fascist graffiti. The phrase, quote, "We don't want you here," was scribbled on the door alongside a swastika that was drawn over several swastikas that was drawn over a Puerto Rican flag. I'll remind listeners that despite not being a state, Puerto Rico is a territory of the United States. They are American. Amie, it looks like Reddit was all over this story.
Yeah, there were actually 2 restaurants involved. I remember Guadalajara from growing up in Muscatine. That's a long time one. I don't know Jibaro, which is apparently the new Puerto Rican spot. So clearly I got to get back to Muscatine and check it out. and you should too, to support them. And people have been, it looks like. So there have been outpourings of support, of course, on their Facebook page, which the business owners deeply appreciate. The mayor came out and had a nice, strong statement about not respecting people's cultures and getting rid of hate and saying that they were going to find who did it, which is all good, all what you want to hear. I mean, I think, especially in this climate right now, people are afraid and they're worried that they don't have a ton of allies. And so to have something like this happen and then see the community sort of step up to help you, I think is good. That it gives me hope for my town again.
Yeah, I can't imagine being. Amie and I both hold Muscatine really close to hearts. It was the first town that I worked in when I moved to Iowa 7, 8, 9 years ago, and it's Amy's hometown. So our thoughts are with the folks in Muscatine.
Yeah.
But yeah, what can we expect, right? When you have folks like Elon Musk, Sig Heiling on the national stage, in front of a seal of the United States, a podium with the seal of the United States on it, right? I don't know, like what do we expect to happen other than people feel emboldened by these actions, right? And this is the cost, right? Is that people feel that they can do anything, right? That the powers that be support their work. I'm glad to hear that. I was glad to read the mayor's message on this. I was glad to see the post from the restaurant Guadalajara about kind of the support that they're receiving. But it's reprehensible and it has no place in this country. President Donald Trump promised mass deportations of immigrants, and on that, at least he's delivering. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency has announced major operations across the United States, including in nearby Chicago. That distance is a cold comfort because these raids are already happening here. I was at the Iowa Capitol last week when a source told me that ICE was rounding up people at the Polk County Courthouse. I came recorder in hand, ready to report out the story, but by the time I showed up, it was quiet. Who got rounded up? What were their stories? We'll never know. That quiet, that sense that something is happening just out of sight, quick and deliberate, that's exactly what we're trying to focus on today. For our cornhole matchup, I have two organizers on the line. They are the grassroots of Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice, an advocacy group that provides legal services for immigrants. That's coming up on Cornhole Champions. Maria Gonzalez is an organizer in Marshalltown. Hello, Maria.
Hi.
I want to start here. I read in the Times-Republican that in 2006, your mother was caught in an ICE raid at a meatpacking plant. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, so in 2006, there was an order for several plants from Swift to be raided. And this was based upon some sort of report that came back, and I think it was kind of flagged. So they came in and were looking for individuals, but with being granted access to the entire plant, ended up conducting a full-on raid. And so at that time, I was a junior in high school, and I was actually getting ready for school, and so were my siblings. And my comadre, my neighbor, called me, and she's like, "Hey, I want to tell you that ICE is here, and we saw your mom walking into the cafeteria, and that's where they're asking everybody to go." And it kind of it hit me like, oh my God, she's gonna be deported, and like how do I protect my mom? And I kind of just froze, and I remember turning to look at my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, and I told him, I'm like, I think they're gonna deport mom. And I remember him like turning and hitting the wall with his fist, and then just started to cry. And I tried to call some of my aunts, and I tried to call people to figure out, like, what do I do? And mostly everybody was like, you know what, just go to school, and we'll figure it out. and I ended up going to school with my siblings and dropping everybody off. But as I was sitting there, I went to one of my teacher's office, and I told her, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I haven't heard from her. I don't know if she's safe. And she was like, oh, it's gonna be okay. You know, we'll figure this out. Which really made me mad because I was like, it's not going to be okay. Like, my mom is arrested. She wasn't doing anything bad. She was working. I'm like, she's not a bad person, and you're here telling me everything is gonna be okay. It's like, it's not. And so I ended up walking out of school, and my friend took me to the pork plant. And when I got there, everything had been like barricaded off, and um, I like ran up to this fence, and there were people that were coming out and people that were handcuffed with zip ties, and other people that had their head covered. But I saw this lady about the same size my mom is and almost same features, and they had her hands zip tied behind her back, and an officer was leading her to the bus. And to me, that was like my mom. That was watching my mom being arrested. And I I don't know, it broke my heart. And I remember looking around, and everybody else was crying as well. And there were people from the church, there was teachers. And all we were being told is like, oh, you're gonna be given a 1-800 number, and you'll be able to call her. But get an adult to call. And I was like, are you are you serious? Like, the adult is in that bus.
How old were you?
About 16, 17.
In high school.
In high school, my junior year.
I wanted to next bring in our next guest because y'all's stories eventually kind of intersect. Maria Acosta, yes, a second Maria, is an organizer also with Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice, while Maria Gonzalez, who you just heard from, is based in Marshalltown. Maria Acosta is based in Des Moines. Hello, Maria.
Hello.
I understand in 2008, ICE executed a raid of a kosher slaughterhouse and meatpacking plant in Postville, Iowa. 900 ICE agents arrested, 398 employees, something like 98% of whom were Latino. Men were detained at the National Cattle Congress in Waterloo, Iowa. Women were detained in county jails. And detainees were chained together and arraigned in groups of 10 for felony charges, aggravated identity theft, document fraud, use of stolen social security numbers, and related offenses. You were a caseworker, right, responding to this incident, right?
I was an advocate for victims of domestic violence, sexual abuse, and human trafficking that time.
Right.
And when I hear these stories, I feel, my body still feel the frustration and the suffering of all these immigrants, because it was terrible to hear many, many, many stories of abuse. Not only abuse by the ICE officers, but the abuse from the supervisor of that meatpacking factory. So it was terrible. All the frustration, all the pain, all the desperation over there. There's people, I don't know, especially women and kids.
Can you tell me? Would you mind sharing a story from that time of work?
Well, it started from ladies. The supervisor sexually abused them, and economic or financially, because they said, the stories were almost the same. The supervisor or one of the managers used to send them cars, and they need to pay them working a lot of hours. They work more than 40 hours and just receive the payment for 40 hours. Uh-huh. So they were they suffer a lot of exploitation, work exploitation there, and kids as well. They had kids working there, minors. Yeah, so it was It was, according with all the stories we hear, it was a lot of labor abuse.
And Maria Gonzalez, Maria Acosta, right off the call, was explained that you also had a connection to the 2008 Postville raids. Can you share a little bit about that?
What we ended up doing basically after our raid in 2006 was kind of building off of a organization. We wanted to build a coalition where we could inform people what to do after a raid. There were many that were interested in helping, but had no clue where to start. And so from the people, from the girls that were in high school, we joined up with one of our librarians, and she started helping us, gather information, to learn about our rights, to learn how to, share our stories. And we found that by sharing each other's experiences and stories, not only was it a type of therapy for us, but it also helped people that were going through the same things or experiencing the same things. So when the Pottsville raid happened, what we ended up doing was being able to share those resources with them, how to best advocate for families. And so we kind of just started a guide how to react to some of these situations and sharing information.
And start there. Tell me, when you're talking about responding to raids of this scale, where does that work begin?
Honestly, I believe that the most important part is sitting down and listening to people's stories. It is a traumatizing event, and people need to be heard. And so that is one of the most important things that I feel like Maria and I do in these cases is we sit down and listen to them one-on-one, and go with what the family wants to do. There's times that we are able to help them and find legal assistance, and there's other times that we are there as support. And both times are crucial during raids and after raids. We are concerned about those legal assistance, but we're also concerned about people's mental health.
Maria Acosta, do you want to add anything?
We were there just not only as a service provider, but also to volunteer, helping them to, going to them with the doctor's office, getting some food, getting a lot of psychological support, because we trouble lawyers, advocates, and social workers, psychologists, many service providers in order to help them to survive this traumatic event. Mhm.
Is there some part of response to these incidents that you feel like people don't necessarily think about or don't necessarily understand?
I think we didn't expect this type of event. It was very frustrating.
Maria Gonzalez?
For most natural disasters or in times of, a disaster anywhere, there's boots on the ground right away. There's resources, there's financial assistance or, food banks that you can go to. And these people not only are already, surviving or barely surviving, now you are talking about taking somebody that was providing either financial contributions to their homes or the bread winner in the household that has now been arrested. And so we had these children and families that were left without these resources now, and having to find that for them.
I wonder if so. We've started this conversation pretty far in the past, 2006, 2008, with these raids. And I think that's important to start there because I think a lot of the attention right now is kind of thinking about Inauguration Day as the beginning of deportations in the United States. But we know that under Obama, right, we had we have many more deportations than we did under some Republican regimes in the presidency, right? And so but I do want to move us to the present, right? I want to hear from y'all about what you have seen since Inauguration Day. Maria Gonzalez, do you want to start us off?
So I think starting with this administration, we were used to raids. Raids have always happened. We know that until a humane immigration reform happens, that's not going to stop. We know that we understand that part. However, there is a part of humanity that has been lost during this administration. This administration doesn't focus on individuals that are undocumented as individuals, as people. They are labeling us as criminals, as the worst of the worst, as, animals almost, to dehumanize us. And that's what we're seeing by these raids. And now it's not just people that have some sort of criminal background. You're talking about showing up to schools, showing up to hospitals and funerals. We talk about protecting our country. Tell me how deporting a 10-year-old child is going to protect the United States. It doesn't seem logical.
Many, in response to sort of these criticisms, people are often saying, well, the Trump administration is going after undocumented migrants that have been accused of crimes, right? Not convicted, it's important to note, but accused of crimes. What have you all seen on the ground in terms of who is getting targeted by these enforcement actions?
Unfortunately, I think right now we see everybody. It doesn't matter if you are, sitting in a prison waiting for your court hearing with immigration. They're picking up people everywhere. And so again, the administration wants to talk about, we are focusing on these people that have committed some sort of crime or are in court procedures of deportation because of a crime. Well, you're labeling all of us under criminals. So to that administration, to this administration, we are all in the same bubble. It doesn't matter what we've done. What matters is the label that they're putting on us. And for them, that means all of us, regardless. And at this point, it seems like even some that are citizens have also been asked about citizenship and, if they're able to stay here or if they're legal, kind of thing. So then are we going after people's statuses, or are we going after people's skin color here?
Maria Acosta.
We have heard some stories from people who are suffering this kind of discrimination, racial profile here in Iowa, in Des Moines. But they don't put these events in the news because it's embarrassed to hear that the ICE agents are using racial profile when they detain people, because we knew about five person detained this last week, and one of them is U.S. citizen, but because she looks like a Latino, she was detained as well. So there is something that they are doing right now. Detain every people that looks Latino, Hispanic, or from another country.
I'm struggling right now as a reporter with, I think there's guidance on both sides that says, Zach, you need to make sure that you're reporting on these incidents with the intensity, right, that that these incidents are causing in affected people's lives. At the same time, right, because there's so little documentation surrounding a lot of these enforcement actions, because so much of this is happening, off screen and play, where we can't. There's not a ton of information available. It's hard to talk with a great deal of specificity, which is why what you're saying about these stories feels really important to me. How are y'all, as advocates in the space who are trying to get good outcomes for people targeted by these enforcement actions, how are y'all balancing both the kind of need for severity, right, for focus, for attention, with what is kind of a black box of information, right, in terms of what's available and how about these enforcement actions? Maria Gonzalez.
So one of the things that we are currently doing is our hotline is going to be open here pretty soon. We have volunteers that will be answering calls and then volunteers going out to verify information. This also helps us kind of gather this type of data so that we have a better understanding of what is happening, what is factual from these stories, and what we are able to also then go out and share with our communities. Like you said, there's so much behind closed doors that we don't always have that information. So that's why it's important that we verify what's happening with our own eyes. As well, we understand, we know that we can't stop every raid. So the importance of teaching people about their rights. And we've done so many community presentations lately, both in English and in Spanish. We've been doing all of these live videos to share out as well with the community. We have been meeting with schools and businesses and individuals one-on-one, making sure that they have information that would protect them. We all have constitutional rights. We all have the right to, remain silent. We have the right to an attorney and for people to know those things. So that's kind of how we've been preparing as well. I think it's important that people, it's a scary time, but at the same time, we also have to be prepared and with a calm mind and act in the best productive way that we possibly can in these situations. So that's what we're trying to do to provide that information for people. We ask them to go on to our websites. We have a couple of groups that we send out messages to as well. So it's not a time of isolation. This is a time of a movement. We ask that people come together, and if people need help starting those things, those conversations, that's where we come in as well.
The two of you have been organizing for some time. Am I right in thinking decades? For the two of you, how long are we talking?
Yeah, it's been a while.
How long have you, Gonzalez? How long have you been organizing for?
Since 2006.
2006, and Maria Acosta?
Since 2008, 2007 as well.
So none of this is new in terms of the structures at your disposal, in terms of the work that you're doing, that kind of intrapersonal work of getting people on board to buy into a mission, organizing mission. That's nothing new. What structures exist to support Iowa migrants right now? You mentioned the phone line, but can you tell me a little more about that? Maria Acosta, do you want to go?
I think we are very prepared this time because we have previous experience, so now we are very prepared. I think so, especially like Maria said, that we are doing a lot of presentation in the community, but we have built as well a community defense team.
Okay, so what is that? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's community defense. This team is made up of 4 teams. One is humanitarian services, legal services, and grassroots organizing communication media team. And the other one is the police and advocacy team. They are going to work together, they are prepared in case a raid passes here in Iowa and Des Moines, especially. Mm-hmm.
And what would that look like in terms of a response? Can you tell me a little bit about kind of how that works in one of these instances?
The humanitarian services or group or team, They are in charge of coordinate all the donations, donation, food, and and some places where people can go in case was they don't have any place to go, so they are
Right.
in charge of all this.
So you
So
have that immediate support for somewhat impacted people.
they are like rapid response groups, teams.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
This is a time of crisis for so many households in this state, so many communities, right? That that are home to many migrants of many document statuses. I wonder, for the two of you who've been in this fight for a long time, how has this changed? How has your work changed since the inauguration, or has it changed since the inauguration? Maria Gonzalez.
I think it's definitely more hyped up at this moment. There's still so many questions, and we're seeing a lot of things that are changing within our immigration system. But it's not just our immigration system, it's from all sorts of parts that perhaps before we were only focused on immigration and status. Now it's almost like a battle of human rights. So it's definitely trying to stay on top of things. But also, I think it's being able to provide some sort of hope for people. Um, s- we get lost with consistently hearing, you know, the administration is doing this, or this has been canceled now, or no more of this, or these people are going to be targeted, or it's constant negativity that we are hearing over and over and over again. And we want to be here for people and for communities, letting them know that yes, this is the message that wants to be shared out in the world right now, but you're still here. Our communities are still here, and we're still going to fight with you. And that's what we want to share as an organization. Like Maria said, we have these teams that are setting up all over the state of Iowa. It's not just Des Moines or Marshalltown or smaller communities. These are people from the community. They have come together. They have decided that, you know what, our neighbors are more important than what the administration is telling us right now, and we're going to stand together.
Maria Acosta, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I just wanted to add that part of our job as a in my advocacy team is to change the narrative, because people needs to know who we are really. So we need to change the public discourse. How can we repeal this web of lies? Well, very simple, with the factual truths, because we are not what this new administration is saying about us. We are part of this economy in this country. This economy is good and is great because of us, because we are the biggest minority in this country. So this country needs immigrants and refugee community, definitely. So we need to change that narrative.
Bring us to a close here. People who hear this, may wonder, what is it that what is it that they can do to get involved? What is it that they can do to support? How do they put their shoulder to the work that you're doing in your communities and in mine? I wonder what's your message to them? Where do you point people who want to get involved?
So we ask people to, first of all, join us in our website. So going into the Iowa movement, Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice page on Facebook, and on our webpage. People that need resources, our webpage has been designed now so that information of resources is up on top. It is bilingual. The site is bilingual as well. So it is presented in different languages. Our hotline is also on there. And what we're asking from a lot of our allies right now is also financial contributions. We are in desperate needs of immigration attorneys. We are in need of setting up some of these legal clinics, and all of that is a financial. We need we need financing to be able to pay some of these lawyers, to be able to do some of these clinics. So contributions help so much in this time, as well as volunteers. We are going to look for volunteers both on the ground and for our hotline. We will do a vetting process as well as a training for people. So that volunteer sheet is also on our website. And Facebook, we're just whatever information we are able to accurately confirm and share, we post it on there, as well as information over like different administrative changes that are happening within the immigration system. Like this last week with the court hearings, we know that they're showing up to court hearings. So what do you need to do in order before you go to your hearing, or if you have to go talk to immigration? So those are just some things that we are connecting with and posting. Like I said, it's not a time for isolation. This is a time for all of us to come together and really protect people that, make up our community. These are people that you grew up with. These are people that are your neighbors. These are people that you sit in church next to. It is our moral responsibility to protect each other.
Maria Acosta of Des Moines and Maria Gonzalez of Marshalltown are two organizers with Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice. Thank you both for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you.
So, Amie, what'd you think of the Marias?
I mean, they've been through so much. If you've been reporting on it as long as I have, you remember Postville really well, and how just horrific that was. I mean, they rounded people up like livestock and threw them into buses. It was ridiculous. And it galvanized a lot of people to activism, and I'm glad that those networks are still in place because we are going to need them. I think for Maria to say, remember the humanity, really just stuck with us, because that's what we need to do. We need to remember that these are our neighbors. These are people that are incredibly vital to our food systems, especially, and that they deserve to be here. And I think if we can remember all of that, these are people. These are people that are our neighbors. I think we'll be okay.
Nicole, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, the first Maria's story about being, I think, 17 years old when her
16
mom was rounded up, like that. Just the fact, the number of ripples this kind of stuff happened.
I mean, Can you imagine being 16 and hearing that your mom got arrested?
And like they're told just to just go to school, like
pretend like none of this is happening.
Right.
Yeah. In some ways, I think that's what we're all being asked to do, right? Is kind of move along, business as usual, keep going forward,
and some sense of like, there are things you can't change, and so like rather than wallow, but there are other things that definitely demand we not just go along.
Yeah, do not go along. If you see somebody being arrested, the Know Your Rights training says you should film it. You should get that video to somebody who is an organization that knows how to deal with that sort of thing and can help those people that are getting arrested, because that could help them in court. That's a good way to be an ally. Just be a witness, I think, to what's happening and sort of make it clear that it's not okay. I think those are the two big things right now that we can help our neighbors with.
In the show notes, we're going to post resources for both how you can get involved with Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice. But there are a lot of, like we said last week, there are a lot of direct aid groups that are working in this space too. And I hope you took our call seriously last week. and to support those groups that are trying to do good in your community. I think this is the time to dig deep into those relationships, to dig deep into those places. And that was another episode of Cornhole Champions. If you like the show, please rate it, subscribe, and share it with your friends. While you're at it, sign up for my newsletter at cornholechampions.substack.com and get these episodes straight to your inbox when they drop on Wednesday mornings. Cornhole Champions is a weekly podcast powered by Iowa Starting Line. The podcast is produced by me with music from Avery Mossman. Cornhole Champions is a proud member of the Iowa Writers Collaborative. We'll see you with a new episode next Wednesday. Until then, I'm Zachary Oren Smith.
I'm Amie Rivers.
I'm Nikoel Hytrek.
Thanks for listening. You know, I don't wash my face. It's part of my skincare.
Also something when you get older you'll start to care about. Yes.
I don't wash my face. You know why I don't wash my face?
Because you're a carefree kind of guy.
Because in 2019, I was covering the Iowa caucuses, and someone had the gall to ask Elizabeth Warren, you may know her as the senator from Massachusetts, what her skincare routine is. And I, of course, because I have reporter brain, I'm so used to loading it down with information and then forgetting it all before 5 p.m. It's interesting to me what facts stick around, one of which is Senator Warren's skincare routine, which is she does not wash her face and then applies cold cream.
She must not be very oily then. Maybe she's like super dry.
I mean, mood.
Just a dry, shriveled type of face that only needs moisture.
Me and Lizzie Warren got that Crypt Keeper pH. Bless her.
Yeah.
And Madam Warren, if you're listening, man.
Big fans.
Big fans. I even use your skincare routine.
Do you? Are you cold cream only?
Oh yeah, I smear the cold cream on. I I put a quarter of a pound of cold cream right on my schnoz.
Is that why you look shiny all the time?
Yeah, that's I look like a nubile baby. I look.
You look like Baby Olivia.
I do kind of look like Baby Olivia.